understandably so. What they tell themselves is, if I get specific about who I work with and what I do, so you've got specificity of market, you've got specificity of proposition, then that's at the exclusion of so many people that could be potential buyers. But the reality is that there's probably still a large enough addressable market for you to really go all in and grow as a business. And secondly, those that kind of reside slightly outside of where you would typically be operating, that would still be good clients for you, they want you more because they feel like they're not in that club. There's that element of FOMO. They think, okay, you've described who you work with and I'm just outside of that. Couldn't you work with me? I mean, I want those results. And so actually what happens is quite the reverse. You don't exclude. What you do is you actually become more magnetic, yes, to those that you're explicit about who you work with, but also those in the sidelines as well.
Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Matt Hodkinson, founder and CEO of Tilt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm great. How are you, Stefan?
I'm very well. Appreciate you coming on.
Good to be here.
So I'll dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey, what made you start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Tilt.
I'll take you way back. I was one of those who, wasn't great academically. I think it was pretty obvious that I was not cut out to go on to university and take that route. That wasn't for me. So I got straight into work at the age of 16. Went to work for British Gas, was sat in one of the biggest open plan offices in Europe, cutting my teeth in customer service. And anybody who's done that, especially for a firm like British Gas, the complaints and everything that come in, I think that was a good grounding for everything I've done since. And I made my way through British Gas for a few years and arrived at a position where I was working in tech. I mean, that interested me. I was, big on home computers and, I sort of dived into that in my spare time. So that interested me. And I found myself sitting next to one or two consultants and contractors that had come on board. And inevitably, over a pint, you get discussing about how much they earn versus what you're on. And I was like, well, I could do that. I mean, yes, you don't get paid for your sick days, you don't get paid for holidays and everything else, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm still going to be, net positive if I go down that route. So I was hell-bent on this idea of becoming a consultant, which I subsequently did. I spent about 17 or 18 years in IT consulting. I got into a lot of web technologies. I was helping with things like performance testing, quality assurance, and things like that. And during that time, I recognised, I went through the whole Y2K in the early stages of that and various other sort of zeitgeist moments in consulting. And I came to the conclusion that it was just a bit of a means to an end. I wasn't actually all that passionate about what I was doing. But as names like Google came to the fore and, the social media storm sort of took off, I started as a side hustle investigating what digital marketing was looking like. Initially starting off doing SEO, then getting into social media marketing. I fell into the whole HubSpot crowd, became a HubSpot partner and started advising clients on how to move into automation when it came to marketing, what have you. And essentially grew an agency, unintentionally at first. And it sort of took over slowly. I reduced the number of contracting days I was doing and sort of moved over into my own agency that was then called Influence Agents. I ran that for 11 years and I sold that in 2021. And the conclusion I come to at that point is when it comes to effective marketing, you can do all the automation, you can do the channel stuff, you can create content, but the one thing that unlocks the results for every client without fail is getting the offer right, getting your market position right, and understanding your value proposition. And so when it came to signing on the dotted line, signing away Influence Agents to its acquirers, and then the next day thinking, well, what do I do now? It was pretty obvious. I wanted to go into that area. And I've just immersed myself in positioning and differentiation and messaging for the last, 5 years. And it's just been a revelation. It's great to be working in a niche with a key specialism. I've become known in that area, working with boutique consultancies for the most part, and that's where you find me today.
Some story, and it's like you say, going from customer service right back where you started. And like you say, it's very grounding, isn't it? And it kind of makes you. It can either do two things really. It can either make you think, yeah, this is all right, or also make you feel like makes me ambitious to actually want to go on and do different things. And then obviously, doing IT consulting to then digital marketing to now actually helping people probably that are in digital marketing and that are in doing consultancy as well. It's kind of like a knock-on effect, and you've taken from each job, you've taken something from it, or each career path, sorry, you've taken something from it to be able to serve your next one.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, but I think what I've done is slowly transition away from technical roles into one that is very much about human psychology at the end of the day. Positioning, messaging, it all comes down to the buyer psychology. How do they make decisions? Why do they buy into consultancies? What's going to make them pay attention to you? What do you need to say in order to sort of ping that spark of curiosity? And then how do you turn that attention into that big hand raise that says, all right, I am interested in talking Turkey with you. Let's see how you can help us, because there's a perceived huge chasm between those two places. One, I'm interested, and secondly, let's work together. It can be a big chasm to bridge, but yeah, I think I've sort of made that slow transition in each of the roles that I've kind of taken on board. Going through that agency phase really sort of flipped my thinking on what's important in the world of marketing. And I think there are still so many, and I know this because of the conversations I have every single day with consultancy leaders, there are so many out there that still need that problem reframing for them. They're still thinking that they need to do more marketing, create more content, rather the what we need to do rather than what we need to say. So yeah, it's been quite the transition for sure.
Yeah, and you've definitely got more specific and more strategic and more leverage as you've gone through the roles. Do you know what I mean? Now you're just focusing on that position and the messaging and things like that. As you said, you can have automation, you can have the right marketing, the right ads and everything, but it's actually that strategic leverage, of being able to actually say what you do in a way that makes people think, yeah, that's you're speaking to me, and I need to your expertise.
Yeah, and also, I guess the default position that a lot of people take with that is they're nervous to it, and understandably so. What they tell themselves is, well, if I get specific about who I work with and what I do, so you've got specificity of market, you've got specificity of proposition, then that's at the exclusion of so many people that could be potential buyers. But the reality is that there's probably still a large enough addressable market for you to really go all in and grow as a business. And secondly, those that kind of reside slightly outside of where you would typically be operating, that would still be good clients for you, they want you more because they feel like they're not in that club. There's that element of FOMO. They think, okay, you've described who you work with, and I'm just outside of that. Couldn't you work with me? I mean, I want those results, and so actually, what happens is quite the reverse. You don't exclude. What you do is you actually become more magnetic. Yes, to those that you're explicit about who you work with, but also those in the sidelines as well.
And I suppose that's like scarcity, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? By pointing in on the one thing other people actually are like, you don't serve everybody. You only serve this type of person. Like you say, can't you serve me as well type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that FOMO thing. And again, biopsychology, that's an element of all of us. We're always kind of, if there's a group over there and it's like, we're having the best time ever, you want to be over there with them, right?
So what does your role actually look like today inside Tilt, like on a day-to-day basis?
Do you know what? I still have my fingers in so many different pies, Stefan. I know you're in the AI business, and that's been a huge help for managing certain aspects of the job. But the vast majority of my time is spent in strategic advisory to my clients, and that's the bit I enjoy the most. Admittedly, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist as well, I still have a hand in producing the outputs and the reports of the work that we do together. And that's the most onerous, less enjoyable part of what I do. And then being visible, doing things like this, being out there, being slightly more promotional, and becoming the go-to through being out in market, spreading this message, this good word that people need to hear. That's what I spend most of my time doing. So it tends to be strategy, both for myself and for clients, speaking, and getting out there, spreading the good word. I'm involved in a number of masterminds because I think that they are incredibly valuable for just changing thinking. I recognise I can have some great ideas. I think people are using AI as a bit of a crutch when it comes to that whole chat mentality, especially around their business strategy. They're not trusting their gut quite as much. They want a machine to tell them what to do next. So I think it's important, as I say, it's great leverage, but get out there and speak to individuals, speak to entrepreneurs who are, again, doing similar things to what you are, but are operating in different areas. So you get to look outside of your back garden and ideate with people who don't do exactly what you do. I think that's incredibly important as well. So yeah, that makes up the vast majority of my time right now.
That leads me on, Matt, to my next question quite nicely on what are the trends that you're seeing in the market today?
Well, I think, obviously AI is everywhere, and I think my own understanding of that is maturing day by day as well. I think a lot of us would admit that we've just been in that sort of chat mode. It's kind of like go and ask ChatGPT, go and ask Claude, whatever you need in the moment. I think, I've started investigating this whole open Claude dynamic and the idea of having, virtual machines, running certain tasks for you and creating essentially roles within your company for machines to be conducting on your behalf. I think it's getting better at all of that. So the AI is one thing, but the other trend I'm noticing is the growing desire for people to have that human connection. I think that's an inevitable byproduct of people sort of making technology their crutch, is that if that's going to take their attention, inevitably they're going to miss getting together, networking, going to dinners, masterminding, whatever it might be. And I still think we're in that recovery sort of period after COVID and all those lockdowns and Zoom and virtual calls being the norm. I think there's still, I doubt very much, and I don't have the stats to back this up, so I'm hypothesizing. I'd imagine we're nowhere near the volume and the number of events, real world events, exhibitions and everything, meetups that used to be so very popular, happening today as were pre-COVID. And I think it's imperative we get back there. Human connection it's taken up a lot of my focus right now. And I think rightfully so. I think you cannot substitute that.
I agree. I think that's the one thing AI can't do. And we are sociable creatures, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? And we thrive on that. And like you say, it's an inevitable byproduct of the more machines, like AI, sort of take over different aspects of our business. It's what you're starved of is what you want the most, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think, it should be leveraged in a way, to let AI handle lots of things, but so you can focus on the human aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? Anything that's sort of not much human on it, human element to it. I think AI can be integrated into it, but that should allow you then the time to actually focus on human to human connections, like whether that's with your clients or with prospects or with other people in the industry.
Yeah, if you can leverage your time with technology, it frees you up to get face to face, get those in real life experiences as well. And I think what it does as well, it changes your chemistry, it changes your dynamic to be able to do that. And yeah, it just opens you up to so many new ideas, and yeah, it's got to be done.
So let's digress a little bit away from AI a second. So Matt, what is working well, and where do you feel slight friction inside Tilt?
What is working well? As I say, I think I still keep coming back to that specificity of proposition, and just really I've focused in, even every day I'm looking for ways to improve the program that I offer. I've got one core program that I bring to market, working with clients on their positioning in different formats, different ways of working. Some of them are remote, but again, some of them are in person to promote that connection. I'm bringing teams together, sometimes for the first time in months, to work together on something, and that gives them an opportunity to connect as a team as well, to unify their voice and take ownership of their positioning. But yeah, there's always work to be done. I mean, it's a constantly moving beast. I do love the creation part of things, so I will often delve deep into my programs, redesign certain things. I'm kind of addicted to that, and I do have a bit of that shiny object syndrome. And that leads me to what perhaps doesn't work quite well is, I give myself so many ideas, and the wider team that I work with, whether it's associates or team members that I've had in the past, it's exacerbated them really about that sort of visionary role that I adopt, because I'm great at having ideas. I'm a great starter, but admittedly, I'm not a fantastic finisher. And that's what AI is helping me to do, actually, is to finish some of the jobs that I start, to see me through to fruition and hold me accountable to that kind of stuff. And the people that I surround myself help me to do that as well. So accountability is something that I really need. So yeah, it's when it doesn't work quite well is when I just get stuck in that strategic, visionary role, and don't knuckle down and execute on it. So yeah, but I like to think I've got some good self awareness around that, and I'm surrounding myself with the mechanisms, the people to account for it.
And that's probably exacerbated a little bit as well by the fact now that we can do so much more, so much faster. We can bring ideas to life much faster. Then is the word they're easier to actually bring to fruition with AI, if that makes sense. Whereas before you'd be like for example, coding things, you'd be like, oh, if I have to set that up, I have to learn to code, I have to do this. Whereas now AI can sort of help with building these different things, but also like what you said, then you can also get stuck into building, having a vision of, oh, I want to do all this type of stuff, and you can sort of get sidetracked a little bit.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, if a finisher, a true finisher, somebody who is a real sort of operator model in business, a good successful entrepreneur came along and just had the time to trawl through all of the chats I've had with AI. There's $1 billion business in there somewhere. I haven't been able to unearth it. It's probably, it's been consigned to, that heap of chats that just go nowhere, that I forget about because I've moved on to the next thing. So yeah, I think that's the danger is, yeah, ideas are great. That scale is great that AI gives you, and you can use it as a sounding board. And of course, it's getting better, over time as well. It's giving better answers. It's hallucinating less. I have found it becoming more and more complimentary and sounding a bit like a yes man or woman. So I'd like to see more of a challenge from AI. But yeah, I don't doubt that there's plenty more to be done in that space.
What LLM do you use? Like usually, is it ChatGPT?
It has been, and recently, as with many, I know, I've made the transition to Claude, and I'm getting a much improved experience, just better organization of documents, and I just love how you'll just give it a random sort of task, or ask it a question, and it will produce a tool. So its answer will be a fully fledged bit of software. What was I doing the other day? I was asking it to map some revenue models based on a few assumptions about a program I'm bringing to market. And its answer was to give me a tool which allowed me to just click a button that said whether it was a conservative estimate, a realistic one, or an ambitious one, and then changed all of the revenue projections and figures in both graph and table format. And it was just like, it was software that NASA would have loved to have in the 60s. It's like there's more power in this little calculator it's produced than probably put people on the moon. And it's just, yeah, so I'm a little bit in love with Claude right now. I think, again, I'm finding it to be a little bit too, blow smoke up your ass, very, very easily. But it's just a joy to work with. Yeah.
The only thing I think Claude is missing, and I'm not 100% how, I know you can make projects and things like that, but with ChatGPT, I've put, the system prompt that you can do. So you can do, and being able to tell that, because that was doing things like that to me, giving me too many compliments, like, yeah, you're doing this. Being able to put the prompts in, so it's ingrained in there to be like, give me everything, no sugar coated, harsh. I want it harsh. I don't want it given to me in a way that is just massaging my ego. But I do think Claude, it's not quite the same setup, but at the same time, I think the memory is very good on Claude. Across chats, being able to say on one chat that this isn't what I do for a living, this isn't what I'm looking to do in the next quarter, and then on a totally separate chat when you're talking, it remembers it instantly. Whereas ChatGPT, I feel like, can miss that sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think it's better on use of language as well. So I know from people who are using it for copywriting or what have you,
Yeah.
that it produces better results for that. The memory improves that as well. So, it's just going to come up with better and better results over time. And of course, the code features as well. I know that, people are taking some very successful vibe coded products to market and generating, new income streams for themselves. It's unfathomable to think that this would even be the case a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's mind blowing.
Matt, let's switch gears a little bit, and could you just walk me through how you actually gain clients, like your client acquisition process?
Yeah, well, I'm very fortunate that I have a great partnership with the Consultancy Growth Network that's, I think, at this point over 6 years old. So I've been working with them as their preferred marketing partner, and so they refer me some of their consultancy members to advise, and some of them I get to work with in a commercial relationship as well. So that's been good. LinkedIn has been complete game changer as well. Of all the social networks, that's the one I'm most active on. It lends itself to the consultancy sector. We're dealing with professionals who recognise themselves that they want to make LinkedIn work for their business as well. So that's been great. And events. That's been fantastic over the years. Again, I would have a preference for face to face. I'm in the process of planning my next face to face get together. But if it has to be webinars and those educational pieces, but what I tell people is don't call it a webinar. I'm always looking, because I'm in the business of differentiation and messaging, having to find new ways. There's lots of baggage that comes with that word. People think I'm going to be stuck for an hour. They're going to give me the big pitch. They're going to tell me, spend 20 minutes explaining who they are and what they do and everything. I'm not for that. I just love this idea of micro webinars. Look, jump on. You won't get the big pitch from me. You'll get something helpful. You can go away. And if you want to find me, you know where I am. Just tap my name into LinkedIn. We can connect. And because I think we're all grown-ups, people can come to the conclusion whether they need what you've got to offer. You don't need to give them the hard sell. So yeah, I think, over the years I've got some good feedback from my sort of webinars, to call them that. But events, I don't think there's any substitute for that, especially the face-to-face, because people will tell you things face-to-face that they would never even think to share, over a Zoom call or webinar.
How often do you run the micro webinars and things like that?
Honestly, it's a bit sporadic. It's when it occurs to me for the vast majority of the time. And I do like to be organic about things. I don't like to be too prescriptive. But it will be getting more and more often. It's part of my strategy going forward this year. So I've got an idea about running quarterly face-to-face and monthly interspersing sort of online events as well. I think that's a good cadence. It's nothing too onerous. I've seen people who do weekly events. That's great, but I see a lot of repetition in what they're doing and what they're saying as well. I don't want to be just relying on AI to give me new hooks for the same message. And I know you've got to reinforce what you do, and there are only so many ways I can come at this whole positioning, messaging, differentiation sort of language from. But I want it to ultimately be helpful as well. And so quality over quantity. Yeah, you'll probably catch me monthly this year.
Do you advertise them on LinkedIn?
Yeah, and here's the big thing as well. It's just a LinkedIn quirk. LinkedIn events are found to be a little bit hit and miss. Yes, they give you great exposure for events, and if you're so minded, you'll see what's coming up, and you can click that button and say, I'm attending. And it's all too easy to do. And actually the correlation between attending and actually showing up, again, it's one of those chasms. It's the conversion rate from actual attending to showing up is wide. So, and again, this is a bit of a practical tip for anybody that's kind of using LinkedIn events to that effect. Send each and every registrant, those that say they are attending, send them a calendar invite, and that way registrations, but also show ups just go through the roof compared to if you don't do that. But yeah, LinkedIn is key. And I have done LinkedIn lives in the past, some ad hoc, some planned. And that's quite a good one as well, because people can see, they'll get a notification if they're one of my followers, and they can just jump on. So you'll get more of those more sort of serendipitous kind of encounters with people arriving last minute.
I'll look forward to any lives that I see on LinkedIn from you, and definitely I'll be interested in joining that, and we'll speak after maybe about getting something about doing your webinars as well. I think that would be very interesting. So Matt, my last couple of questions are, where would you want to be in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of business?
That's a great question. Where would I like to be in the next 12 to 18 months? It's a good call out, that, Stefan, because I think when I do all the projections, as many people do in business, I think I probably refer back to the sort of KPIs and the metrics. One thing I'm trying to get better at is visualizing where I'm at, and how am I spending my time at that point. My vision for the future is to take on a few associates to deliver the programs that I'm building. As I said earlier, I'm very much that visionary. And whilst I enjoy working with clients, and at the moment I'm a bit of a bottleneck in that regard, mine's not a high volume business, and I do enjoy the one-to-one encounters I have with clients. But I see that there are more and more businesses that need our help, and I think that associate model is going to serve me well. So in the next 12 to 18 months, I think I will have, essentially, it won't be a franchise or a licensed model, but it will be a sort of franchisable sort of entity where the program assets, deliverables, tools associated with it, some of which will be infused with AI, will be available to those associates to deliver a consistent experience to more and more clients in different sectors, different niches, different geolocations around the world. Because I've got clients all over, but there are certain time zones I just cannot do. And so that's the big vision, is to expand in that way, and to act in that more strategic sort of overseer role, rather than the hands-on.
I suppose that would allow you to, if you wanted to be able to scale up larger as well. Like you said, then you can be kind of the bottleneck. But if get people on board to actually deliver it, and you take a step up, I suppose, as just a visionary, it would allow you a little bit more freedom to actually scale that business as well.
Becomes limitless, and I'm going into it eyes wide open. I know that the new complexity that comes with that, because I've run teams in the past, I've employed, is you're creating more and more relationships, and it's actually the people in the business that tend to cause some of the gripes and the issues. So it will be a different set of problems. It'll be HR issues versus tech or anything else. So I think that's it does look rosy, that sort of scale, especially, but scale through people can be challenging. And so that's the only caveat to everything that I'm sort of envisioning at the moment. But, worst problems to have if you're growing, right?
100%. So my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
Well, I'd say this about any business, really. I think I've got a lot of experience tapping into clients' minds, to diagnosing where they're at, to understanding the challenges, the frustrations that they're experiencing, in order to be able to say the right things to get into the conversation with them, and to demonstrate that we can help, with the situation that they're in. If I could have a magic wand, and if I could give that magic wand to any one of my clients or any business out there that might be listening, it's to get that ultimate understanding of what is going on in that prospect's head. It's getting that deep understanding. We can do market research, and again, AI is great at giving you a lot of hypotheses around, what a certain profile of buyer is going through in their role, but you never quite know. And so, I'd really love to tap in at a deep psychological level what's happening in the buyer's brain, and I think that'd solve any challenge in a lot of businesses, because I know, again, through experience, talking to consultancy leaders through the Consultancy Growth Network and in other arenas, talking to my peers when we're at masterminds and what have you. I'm in another group called the Agency Collective and Agency Hackers, where there's a lot of agency leaders in there. And the one topic that comes up more often than anything else is that of new business. And it all comes down, when we dive into it, it comes down to understanding the buyer. It comes down to being able to say the right things to connect with that buyer in a bigger way. And yes, I'm better at it than most, without tooting my own horn, because that's the business I'm in. But there's always more to be done there.
I love that answer. Every answer to that question is so different, and it never ceases to amaze me. I've had all different types of answers, never had that one, and I think that's
Good.
I love it, love that.
Differentiation for you in practice, Stefan.
So Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved the podcast, love learning about Tilt and yourself. Where can my viewers and listeners, if they're listening to this and think, I want to get hold of Matt, I want to reach out and work with Tilt or have a conversation about that, where can they reach you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time. So Matt Hodkinson with no G, as you recognised, Stefan, well done. Or you can hit the website, tilt.consulting. That's Tilt with a Y.
Thank you again so much for coming on. And all my viewers and listeners, please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend, and we'll be back next week. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.